conversion of popular programming language constructs into intermediate code forms. What is the meaning of this programming language construction? We are using various languages. The compiler is a lot of compilers are available for various languages. And in every programming language, how they deal with the various programming constructs means various different types of statements. How the statements are converted into the intermediate code form. Okay. We take some example of not restricted to any specific programming language, but we'll identify various different types of statements in a program. How it will be recognized by the compiler. How those statements will be converted into intermediate code form. Okay. Then from the intermediate code form, it can be easily converted into code. Okay. So we start with the various operations like declarations of the statements in any programming language. Okay. What it means? We are identifying various types of statements in a programming language. How those statements will be converted or treated by the compiler. Either lexical analysis. We know what is the meaning of lexical analysis. Simply identifies various keywords in the programming language. It scans and identifies as a token. The tokens are forwarded to the syntax analysis. In the syntax analysis, it identifies whether it is containing the required structure or not. Where in the semantic analysis phase, we are identifying whether it is carrying the required meaning or not. So our concentration here is to how we are identifying the meaning of the declaration statements or any other statements. Okay, various other issues with the help of the various attributes attaching to each and every production rule. Okay, right. So for example, let us assume we are having the declarations using the simplified grammar that declares just one name at a time. So each and every declaration, it is declaring one at a time. Okay. So this particular grammar, say D derives T and ID or D or epsilon, T derives BC or record. In the brackets, we are having once again the D within the comments. Okay. Within the comments, generally it is the sequence of declarations. So let we are having one more function is deriving integer or float data type, or sometimes we are identifying using a function. See, it is not deriving anything, it is stopping. Okay, or it can have a number forward. Okay, right there. So here the non-terminal D generates a sequence of declarations using our grammar. The non-terminal T generates basic array. Non-terminal B derives T derives basic array or record data types. Non-terminal B generates one of the basic data type integer or float. Non-terminal C, okay, for example, the component generates string of zeros, epsilon means, or more integers. Each integer is surrounded by braces. Okay, this is the meaning of this particular thing, grammar. So an array type consists of basic data type specified by B, followed by an array component specified by the non-terminal C. Okay, right. A record type, the second production itself. Okay, in terms of the D, the second production for T is a sequence of declarations for the field of the records, all surrounded by braces. All surrounded by braces. Okay, right. So this particular grammar is representing how to declare various data types or variables. Okay, right. So here we identified in declaration for declaration of any productions or for any productions, we are attaching various semantic rules in order to identify meaning of that particular production. We are attaching semantic rules in order to identify meaning of the production. Let whatever the semantic semantics we identify. Okay, semantic means rules and regulations. So we are attaching with each and every production, right? So, for example, here the production T derives B. The T let the T is having two attributes type and width. Okay, T dot type and T dot width. Let we call simply T and W. Okay, this variable B is containing two attributes type and width. So generally type means we call it as a data type, and width means the size of the particular data type. In general practice we are using the same thing. We are identifying in terms of attributes. The same thing we identify in terms of attributes. That B dot type and B dot width, for each and every data type variable we need to declare like this. So we are calling B dot type as T, B dot width as W. Similarly, we are having the T dot type is nothing but T dot type, or T dot width is nothing but T dot width. Okay. Similarly, the C is also containing, it indicates a type attribute and width attribute. Okay, right. But finally, the C is assigned either C dot type or C dot width or B dot type or B dot width. Okay, both are applicable for this production T. Then similarly, the B is also, now we are going one more step. We identified B and C is having type and width attributes. Now we are giving more information related to the B and C. So we are assigning B dot width is equal to integer, indicates the data type of the B is integer. Similarly, B dot width is equal to 8. It is nothing but the width of the variable B is 8. Similarly, if you have declared this integer or float in the previous productions, okay, then the function we declared B is integer or float. So if you assigned the B as a float data type, then it is nothing but B dot type is equal to float, B dot width is equal to 16. Similarly, the C derives epsilon, the production. We are identifying it as C dot type is nothing but B dot type, okay, or C dot width is equal to W. That whatever we previously we given the short names that B dot type or C dot type, or it can be C dot type or C dot width also, okay, right. The only thing is it can be varies from 0 to a sequence of characters things. Similarly, C derives a number or C1. Here we are identifying it as an array. C dot type is equal to array, okay, number dot value, comma, C dot type. Whatever the type of the C, it automatically comes. Okay. Similarly, we are assigning a number because we are going to create a array type. Similarly, the array is nothing but a set of homogeneous elements. Here the C dot type, here we are indicating only for one variable. Then the final width of the particular array is nothing but C dot width is equal to number dot value for identifying only one variable into C1 dot width. Okay, this number of variables into the width of the single element, width of the single element. So C1 dot type is indicating for one element. The number dot value is indicating the number of values in the array. So the final width is nothing but number dot value into C dot width. The thing is what we are doing here in detail, we are attaching each and every property or attributes so that in what way it is recognized in our programming language whenever we are performing the various operations. Okay, right. So the thing is here, like the previous statements, we are identifying the syntax directed translation scheme. The syntax directed translation scheme computes the types and their widths for basic and array data types. Okay, the syntax directed translation automatically in the figure above automatically identifies using the semantic rules applied. It computes the type and their width for basic and array types. Okay, right. So the thing is, this will be identified with the syntax directed translation, or nothing but all the semantic rules are identified with the syntax directed translation. The syntax directed translation uses synthesized attribute types and the width for each non-terminal and two variables t and w, nothing but the variable type and the variable width to pass the type and width information from B node in the pass tree to the node for the production. C derives epsilon. That means the synthesis attribute means what it is identifying. It is getting values from its children. Okay. So in the syntax director definition, T and W would be the inherited attributes for C. Okay. Uh, T and W would be the inherited attributes for the C. Right. The body of the T production, okay, the body of the T production, that means that T production is containing the basic data types, basic arrays are record data types, whereas the required information is available under B and C, okay. Uh, so this B and C is coming to this synthesized attribute to T as inherited attributes, where B and C are synthesized attributes for T, okay. Right. So the body of the T production consists of non-terminal B, an action, and non-terminal C, which appears on the next line. Okay, on the next line, the action between B and C sets to T to B dot type and W to B dot width. Okay, right. Similarly, if the B derives integer data type, B dot type is set to integer, B dot width is set to 8 and the width of the as the width of the integer. Similarly, if b derives float, then b dot type is float and b dot width is 16. Okay, our general data type or width for float and integer types. Okay, the productions for the C determines whether T generates a basic data type or array type. It identifies whether it is representing a basic data type or a array using the production we defined by the grammar. Okay, so if the C derives epsilon, then T becomes C data type and W becomes C dot width. Otherwise, P specifies an array component. If it is also contained the epsilon, it's simply that T becomes C dot type or W becomes C dot width. If it is not containing this production, automatically it is an array component. Okay, right. The action for the C derives number C1 form C dot type by applying the type constructor array, by applying the type constructor array to the operand number dot value and C1 dot type. Okay, so because it is going to increase, right. So similarly, this is for the declaration. In the declaration, how it is identifying either basic data type, it is identifying, or how it is identifying an array, how it is identifying data type, and how it is identifying without the data type, how it is computing the total size of the array, वगैरह we identified as part of the declaration. Okay, right. Then the next statements, generally our programming statements can be simple statement, control statements, or loop control statement. Okay, our conditional statements are control statements. All these are showing control flow. If it is a simple statement, the statement will be executed one at a time. If it is a conditional statements, based on the condition, it is executing the selected statements. If it is a loop control statement, it is repeating the given statements at the number of times that we know. Okay, all these statements comes under control flow. All these statements comes under control flow. So we also see how the compiler will identify various control constraints, constructs, not constraints. Okay, the control flow is indicating the translation of statements such as if-else statements, while statements, it tied to the translation of the Boolean expressions. It contains Boolean expressions, it contains if-then-else statements, it contains while statements, or simply it is the simple statements. So in a programming languages, whatever it may be, the Boolean expressions are often used. Okay, in any programming language, Boolean expressions are often used to alter the flow of control, to alter flow of control, or to compute logical values. Okay, or to compute logical values. Right. So in any programming language, what is the thing here? We are identifying Boolean expressions either to alter the flow of control or to compute logical values. Right. So first of all, if we are identifying the alter the flow of control, Boolean expressions are used either implicitly or explicitly. Be careful. The Boolean expressions are used as conditional expressions in statements that alter the row of or flow of control. That alter the flow of control. The value of such Boolean expressions is implicit in a position reached in the program. For example, in the if statement, if in brackets expression statement, the expression E must be true if the statement S is to be reached. Okay, in the statement if in the braces E statement, that means if braces expression then statement, the expression E must be true to reach statement S. This is called as implicit. Okay, right. It also computes the logical values. A Boolean expression can be represented true or false as values. A Boolean expression can be represented true or false as value. Okay, such Boolean expressions can be evaluated in the analogy to arithmetic expressions. Okay, using the three address instructions with logical operators in logical operator. So here the thing is we require the Boolean expressions in order to perform various operations in the control flow. That is another requirement. So the intended use of the Boolean expression is determined by its syntactic context where we are using. For example, the expression followed by the keyword if is used to alter the flow of control, while an expression on the right hand side of an assignment is used to denote a logical value. Okay, such syntactic context can be specified in a number of ways. Okay, we may use two different non-terminals, use inherited attributes, or set a flag during the parsing. Set a flag during the parsing. Alternatively, we may build a syntax tree. Alternatively, we may build a syntax tree and invoke different procedures for the two different uses of the Boolean expressions. Okay, right. Once again, we'll see how we are converting the Boolean expressions as part of the control flow. As part of the control flow. Once again, we'll see the control flow. Before that, we'll see how you are going to deal with the assignment statements. Okay. The syntax directed definitions in the figure given below builds up the tree address code for the assignment statements. Let we call it as S using attribute code for S and attribute address and code for expression E. Attribute code for S and attribute address and code for expression E. So let we are having a small production. The production is an assignment statement like addition statement, multiplication statement, division statement. We are using the productions. What is the meaning of the second one? E derives E1 plus E2. Likewise, we can use the production S derives ID equal to E. What is indicating our is we are assigning the value of E to ID. Okay, right. What are the semantic rules we are using in for this assignment statement? S dot code is equal to nothing but E dot code, because finally we are getting the value of E. It generates top dot get ID lexeme equal to E dot address. ID dot lexeme equal to E dot address. So automatically the ID dot lexeme, it automatically shows the address of the E variable, then automatically it gets the value in the particular E address into ID. Okay, so we are having using a small function top dot get variable is uh, uh, ID dot lexeme. We are assigning the value at E dot address. Okay, so whatever there in the E dot address will be getting using for this ID lexeme position. Okay, it is getting the value of E dot address into ID dot lexeme. Okay, right. So if you are using the E derives E plus E, that is assigned to other one, then E dot address is nothing but first of all we are identifying a location, then E dot code is equal to E1 dot code or E2 dot code, or we are generating based on the address E1 dot address value in the E1 dot address plus value in E2 dot address and assigning that value into E dot address. So at the bottom level, everything we are identifying in terms of the variable address and getting those particular values. All those values we are assigned as semantic rules. How it knows to get these values? We are attaching as semantic rules. Okay, you can get the value of E directly from E1 dot value or E2 dot value, nothing but E1 dot code or E2 dot code for E1 dot code, or you can generate the values, okay, using E dot address is equal to E1 dot address plus E2 dot address. The values in the E1 dot address will be added to the value in the E2 dot address and will be assigned to EE dot address. Okay. Similarly, the negation of any particular variable. Once again, we are getting the address using the function new.temp. We are getting a temporary address. In the temporary address, you are getting the E1 dot code. Okay. Finally, we are in the particular address, we are getting the minus of E1 dot address. Okay. Right. Similarly, in the browsers, if you are identifying the E1 dot address, E1 dot address, we are writing E dot address equal to E1 dot address, E1 dot code is equal to E dot code equal to E1 dot address. This is also for assignment. Okay, right. Similarly, if you are assigning ID to E dot address is equal to target ID lexeme, because now it is a variable. Okay, previously it is non-terminal. Okay, whenever we are identifying the terminals, we are getting the lexeme address, then we are identifying the particular code to our address using the particular function. Here the thing is, once again, I will repeat those particular whatever we are identifying. Attribute S dot code and E dot code denote the address code for S and E respectively. Attribute S dot code and E dot code denote the address code for S and E respectively. At a time, here, if you are identifying all this particular thing, no translation, no semantic rule is involving not more than 3 operands. Okay, it contains only one operator apart from the assignment statement. Every statement is divided into small operations. Every operations are at most involving 3 operands. with the using the three operands, it finishes the operation. That is the reason all these things we are identifying as three-address code. Okay, that is important thing. Why we are assigning these pieces of information in various stages, right? So the attributes s.code and e.code denote three-address code for s and e respectively. The attribute e.address, the attribute e.address denotes the address that will hold the value of e. Okay. Similarly, if you are identifying the last production, e derives id. Okay. If you are considering the last production, e derives id. All these are indicating e derives e1 plus e2, or e derives minus e1, or e derives we can process e1, or e derives id. This is the indication of this particular thing. All these productions are related to e production. Okay. So the e address denotes the address that will hold the value of e. If you are considering the last production, e derives id. The syntax directed translation definition in the figure above will defines like when an expression is in a single identifier, say x, then x itself holds the value of the expression. Then x itself holds the value of the expression. Okay, what it is indicating, when an expression in a single identifier says x, then x itself holds the value of the expression, the value of the expression. That is the reason here directly when you are using the ID, we are directly getting from x.lexi. Okay, using the get function. Right. So the semantic rules for this production defines e.address to point to the symbol table entry for this instance of ID. Okay, it is point out to the symbol table entry for this instance of ID. That we'll see how we are treating the symbol table everything in the next topics. Okay, in this one get function directly getting from the symbol table where it is identifying ID lexing. Okay, ID entry and its required lexing. Okay, that we are attaching with the symbol table. That we are attaching with the symbol table. Okay. Let other productions we are using the detailed expansion. Other productions we are using the defined expansion. Okay. The let top denote the current symbol table. Say for example, the function the top dot get retrieves the entry. Top dot get the function from the symbol table. Okay, like the production ID. Okay, from the symbol table, it is getting directly the function top dot get retrieves the entry when it is applied to the string representation id dot lexi. id dot lexi. It applies to the string representation id dot lexi. It retrieves the entry at the position of I dot lexi of this instance of id. Right. So e dot code is set to the empty string when e derives within braces e1, the translation of e is the same as that of sub expression e1. Hence, that e dot address equals to e1 dot address and the e1 dot code equals to e1 dot code because only both are representing the same. Only thing is it is within the braces, nothing else. Okay, right. The operators plus minus in the figures okay are represented to the operators in the typical language. It can be anything. The semantic rules for e derives e plus e1 plus e2 generates code to compute the value of e from the values of e1 and e2. The values are computed into newly generated temporary locations. That is one of the main important thing with reference to the three address codes. In the three address code representations, wherever necessary, we are computing the temporary locations or temporary names. If E1 is computed into E1 dot address and E2 into E2 dot address, then E plus E1 plus E2 translates into T is equal to E1 dot address plus E2 dot address, where T is the new temporary name. Okay, the E dot address is set to the temporary variable dot T. Okay, A sequence of distinct temporary names T1, T2 is created by successive executing new temp locations. As I indicated in the previous three address code representations, we can use as many temporary locations as we can, represented by T1, T2, T3. But only thing is, all those are successfully generated using the executing the statement new temp. Okay. For convenience, we are using the notations x equal to y plus z. Okay, y plus z to represent the three address instruction. To represent the three address instruction, x is equal to y plus z. Okay, the expressions appearing in the place of variables like x, y, z are evaluated when passed to generate, and codes things like single quote okay are taken literally. Okay, right. The other three address instructions will be built up similarly by applying the generate function to a combination of expressions and strings. When we translate the productions, E derives E1 plus E2. The semantic roots in the figure shown the above, this particular thing, okay, shown above. Build up the E dot code by concatenating E1 dot code and the E2 dot code and the instruction that adds the values of E1 plus E2. Okay. The only thing is we are elaborating those operations here using the temporary instructions, temporary names. The instruction put the result of addition into the new temporary name E, denoted by E dot address. Okay. The translation of EE derives minus E1 is also similar. Okay. But only thing is we are getting the same value, but only thing is later we are assigned a minus sign here. I think that's remaining everything is same. The rules creating a temporary for E and generates an instruction to perform the unary minus operation there. Okay. Similarly, we are having the functions as derives ID equal to E that generate instructions that assigns the value of E to the identifier and that generates instructions that assign the value of E to identifier ID. The semantic rules for this production uses functions top dot get. The semantic rules for this particular production uses get top dot get to determine the address of the identifier represented by ID. As in the rule, it derives ID. S dot code consists of the instruction to compute the value of E into the address by E dot address, followed by an assignment to the address top dot get of ID dot lexeme for this instance of ID. So if you are identifying simply a three address definition in the above figure, that in the above figure means this particular small grammar containing the semantic roots, okay, containing the semantic roots. If you are taking small assignment statement A equal to B plus minus C into the three address code sequence, what is the required thing for first of all? Everything we are internally, this particular code is converting using those semantic roots. If you are identifying A equal to B plus minus C, what is the rules? Any statement should not contain more than three operands. Okay, any thing should not contain more than three operands. So we are taking using the temporary variables, whatever the procedure explained above, whatever the procedure explained above, T1 is equal to minus C, we taken as the first production. Okay, then this whatever the value we are getting plus the B stored in a temporary variable T2 is identified as second three address code. Okay, is second three address code statement. Finally, the T2 is assigned to A. So what is the first thing? We identified T1, we stored this value in the first temporary variable, minus C in the temporary variable. This temporary this becomes now, this everything becomes one attribute. Then B, second operand, first operand, because here minus C is also identified as an operand. That is the reason you can't take B plus minus C. If you are taking the B plus minus C, B becomes one operand, minus C is one operand, C is one operand, three operands, and result is one operand. Four, it becomes four operands. That is the reason we can't do directly. So operand one, operand two, and result is the third operand. Okay, right. The second, using this minus C as single operand, this is one operand, B is another operand, result is third operand, T2 is equal to B plus T1. Even we can directly assign A equal to B plus T1 also, no problem. But using that temporary values, we included one more statement. Okay, then finally A equal to T2. We are getting the required assignment statements in using the three address code sequence, right? Right. So similarly, now we'll see the Boolean expressions. Uh, the Boolean expressions, as I indicated above, various where you are using the Boolean expressions. Boolean expressions are composed of Boolean operators. We are having the various Boolean operators. Okay, not only just converting the result into yes or no, but also it is containing a lot of Boolean operators. The Boolean operators, for whatever we are using, the Boolean expressions are logical and or not, using the C conventions for the operators and or not respectively, applied to elements that are Boolean variables or relational expressions. The relational expressions are of the form given relational expression E2. Okay, this is one expression. This is related operator. E1, E2 are arithmetic expression. This is related to the operator. Consider Boolean expressions that generates the following grammar: B derives B or B, B and B, not B, okay, in the basis B, okay, are two relational expressions joined by one relational operator, are true or false. Okay, we use the attributes of relational operators also to indicate along with the Boolean expressions: less than, equal to, not equal to, equal, greater than, equal to, represented with the relational operators we use along with the Boolean expressions. Okay. Let me assume that R logical or logical and the depths associative. Okay, and R has the lowest precedence when compared to AND. Okay, so we are also identified here associative and precedent operations also. Okay, right. Finally, the highest precedent operator is not. Okay, so lowest is or, then and, then not. Given the expression B1 or B2, if we determine that B1 is true, then we can conclude. Otherwise, we are going to B2 also. Okay, right. Similarly, when you are dealing with B1 and B2, if B1 is false, we need not compute the second condition B2. Otherwise, we need to compute. The semantic definition of the programming languages determines whether all parts of the Boolean expression must be evaluated or not. We identified these particular operations using the left recursion production rules. Previously, we are using the left recursion rules. In order to start, we need to start from one end and we need to compute everything. Otherwise, we are having the various other operations, alternatives. Okay, that we need to keep in mind here also. Right. If the language definition permits a portion of Boolean expression to go unevaluated, then the compiler can optimize the evaluation of the Boolean expression by computing only enough part of the expression to determine its value. That is the reason in the expression such as B1 or B2, neither B1 or B2 is necessarily evaluated fully. If either B1 or B2 is an expression with a side effect that it contains a function that changes the global variables, then unexpected answer may be obtained. Okay, so for example, how you can identify a translation of A or B and not C? As we given highest precedent to the not operator, first of all we take this because it is not the rightmost thing, because it is the highest precedence. We computed not C first, then AND operation B into this T1. Finally, we are computing the OR operation. In what way it computes? Not C will be computed first, then AND operation between B and this result will be computed, then it computes A. Be careful. This is the three address code sequence. This is the three address code sequence. Okay. Similarly, uh, right. Remaining portion we'll see the next class. The methods of translating the Boolean expressions in particularly. Then we can come to the switch statement or short circuit code. Okay, we required it for processing the if statements or switch statement. Okay, so methods of translating the Boolean expressions, because the Boolean expressions are now key factor in identifying the flow of control of the if statement.